Right now, as you know, probably by this morning, the Republicans succeeded in making a small whack at the budget deficit. A 2-week CR is going to subtract $4 billion from current spending. Overwhelming vote, 335 to 91. Even a majority of Democrats voted for this bill. Only 6 Republicans voted against it. One of them, Steve King, one of our regular morning majoritarians, he joins us now to explain himself. Okay, Congressman, explain.
Well, my rationale is this, that we put our offer on the table, the House did. When you get into negotiations, it was H.R. 1. It was the appropriations bill, the big CR that we spent a full week debating and finished it up at 4:30 on a Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. That's the offer. There's no counteroffer that came back from the Senate and Harry Reid. So we put together a second offer, which is substantially less. It takes out almost all of the work that we did during the week and bridges us for 2 weeks. Now, that would be all right if we went back to H.R. 1 as the starting point. But my experience in negotiations, which I might add is, at least in numbers of incidents, is considerable, is this, that whenever you make an offer, the other party needs to make a counteroffer. You don't just offer them a second one and hope they take it. And the second component of it is that it's very difficult to up the ante after you've conceded a series of principles, points, or dollars.
Let me clarify a point. H.R. 1 was your bill that would defund Obamacare. Is that correct?
Well, it included it. It was,
okay.
It was a large CR, continuing resolution appropriations bill that funded all the government, and in it had the language that said none of these funds that are in the bill shall be used to fund Obamacare.
All right,
that language was taken out along with the language that would have unfunded Planned Parenthood.
All right, so if I'm hearing you right then, that the $61 billion in cuts, that was the deal that was agreed upon in the House, and therefore you're not negotiating anymore on that.
Well, I wouldn't say no negotiations. I just think that the points that are conceded, all of the components, or most of the components that were added in by amendment, were taken out of the bill. And so I'd argue this, that if the president can't get along for 2 weeks without funding to implement Obamacare, then that should tell us something. If he can't concede to that and give us 2 weeks with what we've worked to produce, then that tells me he's not going to compromise in the longer term, and I think it puts us in a weaker negotiating position. I'd like to have seen more people stay with me. If that were the case, it would make our leadership's negotiation position a lot stronger against Harry Reid and the president.
Well, having said that, what is the future of defunding Obamacare? I don't know if we'll have a series of short-term CRs or whether you'll get to a big-ticket item, but is your leadership prepared to draw the line on saying, no, Mr. President, we will not fund Obamacare even piece by piece or 2 weeks at a time? Where do you think they come down right now, Congressman?
I don't know. This was negotiated after we did our work and left town for that home work week. And before we came back to town, the offer was out in the media, and it did get floated back to me, and they asked where I stood, and I said I'll vote no on a short-term 2-week CR if it doesn't have the language in it, and I've stuck to my word in that. But I don't know whether they're ready to fix bayonets and defend the next hill, which comes before the 18th of March. I hope so. In fact, I'll say I think so. And I know that there are a large number of members who said this is a one-time pass that we're going to give, and that we're going to come back together and stand and do battle on these bigger issues that were part of that H.R. 1.
All right,
there'll be a stronger fight next time.
What is your sense, though, with the Republican leadership? Do you think that they want to avoid a government shutdown at all costs?
I don't know about the at all costs part. They've made it real clear they want to avoid a government shutdown. I will say this strong vote in their support last night, and I think a lot of Democrats have voted for it too, were sending the message that they did not want to shut the government down. Mm-hmm. And so now that point has been made, now we'll see what their next position is. But I will say this, that you will not achieve your goals legislatively if you're always step away from a shutdown. You have to be willing to face it and face it down, or the president will get everything that he's willing to fight for.
Having said that, when you go back home to Iowa, to western Iowa, where are your constituents on a government shutdown? Are they aware of what it entails? Are they prepared for it? Are they bracing for it? Do they expect it? Or do they believe that a lot of people in this town believe could never happen?
I think they believe it could happen. And I don't know that I have as good a measurement on the pulse as I'd like to have. But I think it'll fall down the party line side of it. There's about 30% in my district that will side with the Democrats, and So they'll follow those talking points and that rationale. There's another maybe 40% that will follow down the conservative part, and the others will take a look at how does it affect them directly, and if it doesn't affect them directly, they'll shrug their shoulders. But, many of them have been through the bank closings that we had in the 80s and know what it's like to go to a barter system, so I don't think that they fear a shutdown is something that's going to stop everybody's living habits, so we can adjust to it, at least in the short term.
All right, let me ask you about the Defense of Marriage Act. Obviously, the President and the Justice Department have decided they're not going to defend it in court anymore, but Congress can defend the law in court. Is that something you're looking to do or be a part of?
Well, I hope to be, and I know that Speaker Boehner has made some public remarks on it. I'm not quite caught up with whether he wants to bring a resolution, but I'd sure like to see our leadership take that issue and go defend it in court. I'll support every effort to do that. And I did say that I will bring an amendment in appropriations bills to cut the budget of the Department of Justice. This is a constitutional issue as much as it is a marriage issue.
Right.
The executive branch has an obligation to defend the laws that are on the books, and to just simply announce, and this is the president, of course, announcing it through Eric Holder, or a supporter, I'm not sure which, that they're not going to do the job that they're pledged to do. I mean, this is a constitutional oath.
Well,
take care that the laws are faithfully executed.
Okay, but you're a member of the Judiciary Committee. Your colleague Lamar Smith is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Why not ask the Attorney General and whoever else you think appropriate to come up and defend this kind of catch-as-catch-can attitude towards defending the laws you like and blowing off the ones you don't like? I mean, there's precedent for this in the past in other administrations, but it seems unless you frame the issue, it'll just continue.
Well, Fred, I'll ask him today. I think that is the right way to go down through that, and so many things move so quickly around this town. And I think I'll have an opportunity to do that, and I'll have a conversation with him today and ask him what he thinks. I know that he'll be working in coordination with John Boehner and Eric Cantor and through on this, and I want to help facilitate that. If they think a resolution or the action of defending the law through the legislative branch is the right strategy, I'm all for that. But I do think that Eric Holder needs to answer some questions. This is a constitutional oath issue, and it reflects the president's oath and that of Eric Holder.
Right, but if you defund the DOJ or if you take money away from them as a form of punishment, aren't you also punishing the American people, because they're obviously going to have to defend us against criminals on a regular basis besides the Defense of Marriage Act?
Well, the bottom line effect of what I'm proposing would be more symbolic than it would be debilitating, in that what I've said is not to defund all of the Department of Justice, but to cut their budget a nominal fee, right, nominal fund that's equivalent to what they would otherwise be using to defend the law. But if they're not going to defend the law, they don't need that money, and I want to send that message, and I think we can get something like that done. But
the question I don't understand, Congressman, is how can they have it both ways? They're saying we're not defending the Defense of Marriage Act because it's unconstitutional. We will defend Obamacare even though judges have ruled that it's unconstitutional. Seems to me that ought to be on the record with Eric Holder or some ranking official saying here's why it's true in one instance and not in another.
I would. That's a significant point, and I'm going to add that to my repertoire, if you don't mind. and additionally, I say to this: the Justice Department decided to sue Arizona.
Right.
And remember that exchange before the Judiciary Committee with Eric Holder, and I questioned him ahead of Ted Poe and went down through this path, and he essentially confirmed that the president had ordered him to sue Arizona. And 10 minutes later, he admitted he hadn't read the bill. It was clear the president had not read the bill. They sued Arizona for political purposes and made the issue race. And now we have them refusing to defend the Defense of Marriage Act and aggressively defending Obamacare and delaying this out, by the way, so that they can find ways to give people a pass around the individual mandate, the state's mandate. They're setting this up so that they have a better chance in court by shifting the law and providing waivers. I think there's all kinds of things at play here, more pieces moving on the chessboard than people have figured out, and more than I've figured out, I suspect.
All right, Congressman King, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Steve.